Hey everybody, this is Jeff from Four Muddy Paws, and welcome for another edition of our Destination Fresh Foods. So as we like to say, that every journey begins with one step, and our goal with this whole series is for you to take that first step with your dog or cat toward adding some more fresh foods into your animal's diet. So we're really happy that you're joining us tonight and that you're interested and eager to learn more about what you can do and making those small changes that really are very, very meaningful in our animals' lives. So tonight I have with me Michael Stoner from Stella Chewy's. And so Michael has been our partner for many years, and he is well-versed in everything with animal nutrition and things. And so we're going to talk to Michael a little bit and find out a little bit more about Stella Chewy's and some of the products that they have, and just ways and tips and tricks that we have to get more fresh foods into our animals' diet. So Michael, welcome, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
it's always
absolutely.
fun.
Thanks. Yeah. So what is your, give us a little idea on your background and how you got started in pet nutrition and in this whole business that we're in.
Yes, by accident.
Yeah.
No, growing up, I always had dogs. You always have that one dog that makes a difference. Mine was a golden retriever, an 80-pound big dog, not overweight, but just really big. And so I was always around dogs. We just didn't at that time know, what nutrition was for dogs. It was like whatever was on the shelf, get it, And that changed later on in life. I have background in marriage and family therapy, so never thought that I would be in the pet food world, but it's a lot easier to deal with dogs than humans. So, that was an easy transition. But I stumbled upon the pet food world just in conversations with a gentleman who actually owned a pet food place up in Minnesota and worked there for a couple of years at Sojo's, and then had the opportunity to switch over to Stella Chewy's and jumped on it and have been there since 2016. Been here since 2016. So, so kind of stumbled into it, and it's such a nice environment. I mean, because nobody has a dog or a cat because they don't like dogs or cats.
Right.
You like the animals, so you want the best for them. So it's such an easy environment to be in. Reps, manufacturers from all over, everybody's just fantastic. So, and right now I have a silver lab and two boys who eat dog food as well. So
there you go.
Get it to the bowl.
There you go. Yeah, it's definitely. And I think, when you have those animals and you start to really think about what they're eating, and you start looking at the back of the packages and what the ingredients is and where the sourcing is, and looking at the transparency of the company and the safety of the foods, things like that. That's all really important. And I think that, we've been around almost as long as Stella Chewy's has as a store, and just watch the opportunities grow, because we didn't have a lot of the same options that we have today in our store 16 years ago when we opened. It was just, it was very, very challenging. Raw was there, and we always carried raw. But now we have so many more options, and it just excites us when we can go to, we go to our trade shows, or we're talking to folks about new things that are coming out, and that just gives us new ways to reach dogs and our cats and help them.
Absolutely.
Live long and happy lives. And our whole thing is like, we want them to thrive and not just survive. So, So give us a little bit of the history, a little bit of information about Stella Chewy's, what makes Stella Chewy's so unique.
So
food.
I think you have to
encompasses a lot, but
right. Yeah, no. And we've obviously changed over the years and gotten a lot larger, but I think what's important is to go back to why you're doing what you're doing. And our beginnings didn't start with somebody being, hey, I just want to make dog food for the masses. It wasn't like that. It was a woman who had two sick dogs who decided, I need to change their lives somewhere. I adopted these dogs. They're not in good shape. I don't know what to feed. I need to educate myself on what they need to eat so that I can make their lives better. And that's what our founder, Marie, did. And it was only about those two dogs. It was about Stella and Chewie, and making sure that they lived as long and healthy as possible with whatever she could find at that time.
Yeah.
And so she did all that research. And I think that's what, and obviously it's changed now, and we've grown and expanded, and now we deliver to the masses all over the world. But it's comes from those humble beginnings of just, we need to find something for our pets, for our dogs, for our cats that works for them and makes their lives better, because they are gifts. And so that's really the background, starting and knowing your why, because then you can teach that, and that love and appreciation for dogs and cats. That's where it comes from, and then that just spawns into customers and everybody else.
Right.
I think one of the things that stayed consistent across the board with Stella and Chewy's now, and since really we started making it for everybody else, is the fact that it's all about what goes into it, the ingredients. So making sure that across the board, it's organic fruits and veggies, it's grass-fed, cage-free, wild-caught, or farm-raised proteins. Unfortunately, we don't get to eat that healthy, but at least our dogs and cats get to eat that healthy. So it's some days I'm feeding my dog and I'm like, man, I wish I had that. That's why I said, like, my son gets into the bowl and he actually enjoys it.
Well, I mean, we changed the way that we eat based on what we were feeding our dogs. We realized what they were eating, and it literally changed the way that Matt and I ate. I mean, we made that change probably 6 or 7 years ago. And it's just made a tremendous difference. And that's how our dogs, just because I was starting to realize, like, doing all the research and things for our dogs, and then realize that, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden it hits you, like, you see something from a different perspective and you're like, wait a minute, why am I not doing this? And so we made the change, and it was the absolutely right thing to do. That's because of our dog,
Right.
So
Right.
It's cool.
It's amazing. Yeah. What we learned from we think that we're teaching our furry friends, but they're actually teaching us a little bit.
Every day they're teaching us. Yeah, they're pretty good at that.
Like,
sometimes.
be more like me.
Exactly.
And I think one other one too is just our company's based in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So go Green Bay Packers. Yay. But no, it's having our facility that we own and operate, that we can put all those security measures above industry standard, just to make sure that only the best stuff is going through. So having our freeze dryers there, our frozen, our bakery, and just having everything on site to make sure that only the best goes into it. And I think that's pretty cool, because I feed my dog Stella and Chewy's, and I want to make sure that it's the best stuff going into her body. So
right. And some people don't realize the processing, and owning your own facilities like that makes it much more streamlined, rather than having to process the food, then truck it over to a separate freeze drying company. Then they freeze dry, then you've got to truck it back, package it, and then out. So this keeps it much more streamlined. So it's really, it's made, prepared, and then freeze dried, and then packaged and out. And then,
on your shelves.
Right. And then I think one of your big points of difference from the very beginning, is when you started, was the whole guarantee with the safety.
Yes.
Transparency with safety. And I think that's still really unique in the industry. The fact that you have, you can go online and actually see in that your production number and see all that information.
Yes. And that's really nice. It's a stamp, and it's on all of our packaging, and it's a stamp of approval, a guarantee stamp of approval, which means that everything that's in that bag is been tested. We made sure that it's perfect before going out, and you can dial in that lot number into our website, and it pops up basically the life of that batch, which is really nice, because then it reassures you and the customer that, no, this is great stuff. I don't have to worry. There's enough to worry about. We don't have to worry about that.
Exactly. And that's why we trust our suppliers, because we believe in transparency and in safety, and taking those measures. So you're tracing all of those ingredients. We've learned a lot about tracing over the last 6 months, how important that is. And in the pet food world, the responsible companies are tracing every single ingredient in every single bag. So you know what goes on. And I don't know that people realize that there's that level of accountability happening. So so you started with your frozen diets in a lot of different protein options. and then from there you went into your freeze-dried diets, and created that. And then just, I think last year you launched, was it last fall when you launched Marie's Kitchen?
Yes. Yes, I think so. Time is so weird right now, but yes.
Yeah, we're on a weird time bubble, but I think it's something like last fall. But that's a whole category for a lot of folks, this gently cooked category that I want to talk about tonight, because that's a category that not everybody is familiar with. They don't realize that that's an option. And it's really that bridge between freeze-dried and completely raw or frozen, or what you're making at home. And sometimes it's a really nice transition for dogs in particular when they're moving from a dry food onto a wet, raw, whole food.
Yes.
So talk a little bit more about Marie's Kitchen and what really makes that difference.
Yeah. So we like to come up at Stella Chewy's, come up with terms. And this one's called the Stellavator. And it's really the idea of a staircase of food quality, and that there's different levels that everybody finds themselves on based on what you can feed, based on what you can afford, based on what you know about education, stuff like that. And this is just another level in that Stellavator that bridges the gap between freeze-dried and frozen, almost that entry level into frozen. And what it really does, what Marie's Kitchen does, is we've humanized our dogs plenty, but it's almost more so in our food, so that what their food looks like, it closely resembles the stuff that we get at Whole Foods or we get at Trader Joe's, things that are gently cooked. That when you look at the packaging as a consumer, you look in there and you can see the veggies and the pieces of meat. It's the same concept for the dogs, but with this, it's gently simmered. So it's done in like a big cauldron, gently simmered. I always think of like a little witch just mixing it. I don't think we have a witch there, but maybe, I don't know. But it's really working around that, where we have the big pieces of meat, beef or chicken, and then the organic fruits and veggies. And then what's really nice with this is that it's balanced with protein-rich bone broth. Right. So that's mixed in there. And really, I think for the customers that are on the fence, either they're just testing the waters, or they think maybe frozen looks gross, or they haven't gotten it out yet and seen, wow, this is actually looks very appetizing. It looks better than the majority of our food. Yeah. That's that entry level to try. And yes, it's in the frozen section. It's got collagen in there, just with the amazing nutrients in there. But it's really taken off. And I think it's just because of how we look at food and how we're paying more attention to, as humans, what we're eating. Right. And now there's another option that looks closer to our food.
It does. And I think it has a different texture than a lot of raw food does. So I think that appeals to dogs because it has the bone broth in there. We talk a lot. We've been talking a lot over the last couple of weeks about moisture and adding moisture into the food, and then intracellular moisture, making sure that the dogs are getting it from what they're eating, and then that moisture transports all the nutrients throughout the body. But I like that it has the bone broth, because bone broth has so many nutrients in it, plus it's gut soothing and gut healing. So even dogs who are have an appetite or have a challenging digestive system and do better or do quite well on a gently cooked diet.
Yes.
And it's soft enough that dogs that don't have a lot of teeth or have dental issues or things that some of our smaller breeds do, and we have so many rescue dogs as they get older, but that way they can eat a really nicely cooked diet. So
yes. And you mentioned, the actually eating that and having the soft food. I mean, absolutely. It works great for the older generation of dogs. I always think of like pugs that end up having no teeth, that just fall out everywhere. That it's perfect for their jowls because they can break it down super easy. And
kind of the consistency of ground hamburger. I mean, if that sort of like that, with a lot of veggies mixed in, plus with the bone broth. So, and it's complete and balanced. So you've got the added vitamins and minerals in there. And it comes in chicken or a beef, right?
Chicken, beef, yes. And I'm sure that line will expand too.
Yeah. But that's definitely something I think people should explore because I think it's a really nice entry gateway into not only the Stella and Chewy's world, but in the world of moving toward that fresh whole food.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
fresh food diet. So
yeah, and that really, yes, it jumps you into, hey, now that I know my dog really likes this stuff and I think it smells good, it looks good, my dog absolutely devours it. What else is there in that freezer back there, or
and
in that? Yeah.
Yep, and it's totally scoopable. So it just
Yes.
comes in a nice sized bag, and then you can scoop it out. So even if it's just twice a week or something, that's fine. So make Sunday your raw day, and add a little bit of that in. But that is going to just, I think it's a great option for so many people, and I'd like them to get more exposure to and try it, because I think that people are on the fence, and that's a important one. Now you don't have that for cats, right?
We don't have that version for cats. Again, who knows who knows what's going to transpire, but there are a ton of different options for cats too.
Yeah.
If we want to go into it.
Yeah, let's talk about cats. I think our cats, really, we would love, in the perfect world, I would love every cat to be eating a raw food diet. I mean, a mouse is the perfect food for cats. And so as important as it is for dogs, it's critically important for our carnivore cats to get that moisture in there. And we can solve so many health issues, the crystals that cats get, and so many other health issues. Diabetes and all those things that a lot of our cats are afflicted with.
Yes, and getting that moisture in really protects later in life. I mean, when these things happen, and you could spend thousands of dollars at a vet dealing with the issues that all it took was getting some liquid into that diet, whether it be a bone broth or even a free water. I mean, something that you can just
pour a glass of water on that. That's the whole thing, is I just pour water over the food.
It's still free. It's still free.
Yeah, it's still free. Yeah, exactly. So far. But even if, and so that's exactly right. But you have a frozen variety, and then you've got freeze dried, right?
Yes. Yeah. So starting off just with freeze dried, we have tons of different kinds. But the meal mixer form, which again, gentle little morsels. All I have is like a dog bag over here. I'll get that out later. But little morsels that, again, it's 98% organ, meat, bone, really nothing but meat, because that's so important into their digestive system. Taurine's in everything that we've always ever done, dog, cat. So that's always in there. But you get just a ton of meat, because that's, like you said, even more so than dogs. They need that. They thrive on that. They just kick butt with it when they're eating raw. And then we have like that next level, which would be jumping into the frozen. And we have the frozen morsel form, which is the same exact thing nutrient wise, and the same little pieces.
Little bite size. They're like little bite size little bits, kind of. The morsel is in Stella and Chewy's talk. So.
Right. I would think a little bit bigger than like a marble almost in size. And so again, nice and gentle. They can break it down. If you have a cat who is maybe temperature gauge, because a lot of cats are, some dogs are, but a lot of cats are, because they're used to their live food, like out in the wild. They like the live kill. That's how they want a warm mouse. Oh yes,
a warm mouse or a warm bird, unfortunately. But
right. And that's why maybe for them it's so much harder to get the moisture, and they get so many issues, is because they're used to warm liquid. So I always say, when you're even frozen, it can still be frozen. It's not going to cook the food at all, but using warm water, like dishwashing water, emulates like blood temperature, and mix that in, and your cats will be more likely to eat that and attack that, because they think it's moving. They're killing it. And yes.
And since we're talking about cat tips too, the other good tip I think for cats that I like to do is you can take the food, and then you can feed them don't feed them in their normal spot where they've always been fed. You can hide their food somewhere, or let them discover their food, or hunt it. And oftentimes cats will just associate my environment with eating. And if it doesn't look like what's normally there in this environment, I won't eat it. But if they can find it and then hunt it, and like, ooh, I just found this like secret stash of food, it can make a big difference. So changing it up that way could be another technique, because cats can be so tricky when it comes to changing especially an older cat. Younger cats, as kittens, when you get them, first get them on at least a wet diet, and then really try to do a raw diet with that. And you will solve so many health issues.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's, doing that and making sure that the cats think they're the boss.
Right.
Great way to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
Great way to win there.
Yeah.
We also have the frozen versions, like I said, those morsels, but we also have the Stella Selects, which are, it's the same frozen. It's 97% meat, organ. But what is removed in that one for different issues is bone and veggies. So those aren't in there. So really what you're getting is that shredded muscle meat, the bone, and really nothing else. And it really works for
ground bone, right? So
Yep.
it's a softer, smoother consistency.
Yeah, and no bone. That one's bone
No
free.
bone, no bone,
Completely bone free and vegetable free. But it really is very. All it takes out is that bone broth, or the bone and the veggies, and just another version to reach more cats out there that maybe they have issues, or the
medallions. We have a lot of fans with both versions. We have a lot of fans with, but the medallions are quite popular because cats, again, are all about the texture, and sometimes the cats don't mind the little crunch, because when you put the bones in there, it can get a little gritty or something that some cats are just like, no, not
for me.
Not doing this. But if you get a nice slurry, I like to call it a slurry or a pate, that's really smooth, they're all like, oh, I can do this one.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And we can attest, because it took us a year to transition to our cat, because this was a while back before we had all the options we have now to find the right food for her. And once we found the right diet and the right consistency for her, she was on it. And then, I mean, she lived to be 18, and she had, unfortunately, she'd started and we didn't do all of that from the very beginning. So she had chronic kidney disease, but she still had chronic kidney issues for about 4 or 5 years. But on the raw diet, she did quite well, and she lived to be almost 19. So
that's a long time.
Yeah, for a cat with some health issues. So, and that's because we switched her to raw, and then she just loved it.
Yep.
And just the change in her coat and skin, and health-wise. I mean, I wish we had done that from the very, very beginning. So.
You know, I find, I don't know, I mean, it seems like it with you, but with starting cats off when they're kittens on raw, they seem to be less finicky. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to be out there where they're like, wow, no, my cat eats these 3 flavors and loves it, and never had issues of just deciding not to like it anymore.
They imprint at a really young age at what the food is. So if you give them a lot of variety early, I think then they're like, oh, okay, all this stuff is food. Because I had a dog, our dog Foster was like that too. If you gave him a raw meaty bone, he would no way touch a turkey neck or eat a turkey neck. Where other dog, Salem, was like, first time he saw a chicken back, he was like, boom, I know what to do. I'm going to eat it. Foster would be like, not so much. I'm going to lay down next to it. I'll lick it. And then he would not ever eat it. But he loved raw, but it had to be mixed up that way. So all our animals are different. And then you've got to get them to eat what they want, what kind of work with them, and they'll tell you what they like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so just talking about moisture, and then we'll talk a little bit about just adding some other things in. But talking about moisture, you've got a couple really easy, convenient ways to add moisture in with your like the Tetra Packs little box.
Yes.
And the and things. So
so for both dogs and cats, we have Tetra Packs. So for all of you out there who don't know the Tetra Packs, it's like cans. They're just in a biodegradable, recyclable pack. It kind of looks like grade school milk chugs. Yeah, I remember that, and that thinking opening all 4 corners and trying to dunk my cookies in it. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. But what's great about that is it really locks in the flavor and keeps things fresh for a lot longer, which is really nice. And we do that with our cats and our dogs. So we have stews and toppers, or mix-ins, I should say, for our dogs. And then for the cats, we have the morsels and pate, which again, they're 100% human grade. So, I mean, you could go for it, try it. You can eat it if you wanted to, but again, great stuff that's in there. Bone broth is the liquid for the dogs so again, water's free still. And so bone broth, we mix that in just with the different nutrients and just to make it more calorically dense, basically. And it's great stuff with little shreds in it for your dogs and you can top that with, if people are on kibble or they're on freeze dried or they want to just add something other than water, that's a great option to do. And we see that a lot. And again, for cats, maybe it's adding some more warm water to it to make it warm for the cats. We also have Carnivore Cravings, which are basically like shreds. They're in little packs for the cats too, that have the water in there too, or I should say the bone broth, not the water. So a lot of ways to mix it in. And if those aren't something that match with where a customer is at, and they're like, okay, well, I'm on this level, I always believe in getting some kind of water into your diet, some kind of liquid into your diet, whether it be bone broth, goat's milk, or water, and making, even if you're on kibble, and making a giant bowl of soup in the morning and at night, so that you're guaranteeing that your dog is getting the water in there. And that's what I do with my dog. I do like a bunch of freeze dried, and just fill it with water, and she gets a soup in the morning and at night. And almost never do you see her going towards the water dish, because she's hydrated.
Yeah, our dog hardly ever drinks water, and people are always like, he doesn't drink water. I'm like, no, because he's getting everything he needs from his raw food. So, and the bone broth and things. So that is key. And then you've got so that part, and then if you just want to take those first steps, so adding moisture would be I think the number one thing you should do with every animal. But you can also take the morsels and then just put some freeze dried on top of use the freeze dried and put that on top of the regular kibble, add some water to it, and then you're all of a sudden giving them some, muscle meat, organ meat, and bone. So you're kind of raising that protein level, and then you're lowering the carbohydrate level naturally, because you're increasing the protein in their diet. So lowering the glycemic index, and they'll be full and satiated. And it makes a big difference so that's another way you can just add a little bit of whole foods in. And so, so we have lots of different options, protein options, and then different sizes and things that you can mix.
And let me show you one of the easy ways. So we talked about meal mixers, patties, meal mixers. Another way for cats and dogs, and I think I mentioned it, it's got like a little spout to it. And really, this came to be because of a customer who was like, hey, you should just pick up all the stuff that falls on the ground, all the meal mixers, and grind it up and throw it in there. And we're like, well, no, we're not going to do that because that's dirty, but you're onto something. And so what we ended up doing was getting an emulsifier and breaking down that meal mixer into dust form, where it's again adding another level to that Stellavator, another step, where this is just super convenient to just pour it into whatever kibble that you're on to get some form of raw, some form of freeze dried, and starting small. Like we said, a majority of customers use freeze dried or raw as a supplement, and it's trying to continue to work up, but that's a way to just get a little bit into your diet to see that dog's excitement just grow, because it's exactly what they want to eat.
A lot of it's just experimenting with your dogs and finding out and cats, and finding out what they like, and just giving them a treat, and knowing that you're giving them something special. People talk about love language, or that way you can show love to your animals and to your family and your friends. Well, this is just a way that we can do that. You can give them something good, and that they're happy. And plus, even like a little bit of freeze dried can work good as a training. The morsels can work good as a training treat.
Absolutely.
As well. So they're really, really versatile and nice for travel. So that's another. That's
super easy and convenient. I think that's why it's taken off. It's so easy. It's raw, but it's astronaut food. It's like, it's just the removal of the water, and of course you're going to put it back in. But it just makes it so easy and convenient to feed in any kind of capacity that you want to. So,
and I think that is important to add that moisture back in, because obviously you want to rehydrate all of that. So, So we always ask everybody who's been coming on, like, what's your best advice for pet parents? Not that we've talked a lot about all of this. So, and with best advice, I would say, what 3 things can pet parents do tomorrow to make a difference in their pet's overall health? Like, what should they walk away with to say, okay, this is another step I could take?
Well, I'll throw a little curveball at you here. Is the first one, and I think it's super important, is to actually shop at Neighborhood Pet, because not brown nosing here, but I'm just saying that, because you set things up like this, where you have manufacturers come in and talk about how to feed better, or how to implement, or special tactics to use to make your dog healthier and happier. You spend the time doing that, and you're educated on this stuff. So there's a reason you have what you have in your stores, and it's because it all matters. And so that's the number one is shop with you, because even if it's not even dog food, I bet you have 10 tips on why that harness works so much better, or that toy.
No, truly, because we pick out every single product that's in the store. Yes. The reason why we carry those products that we carry, and I can tell you all about them. So, So, but no, I appreciate that, because and I appreciate, like I said, I just appreciate our community who has stood by us. They've been amazing, supporting all of us, independents, and it's important.
Right. Yeah. And you're gonna benefit your dog and cat, and that's what it's all about anyways. So
everyone on our team is so passionate about the health and well-being of our animals. So they have their own animals, so they're passionate about their own, but they're also passionate about everyone who walks in. We want them to succeed, and we stand by everything we sell. So
right. Yeah. Absolutely. I think the other one is knowing that, and we talked about it a lot, but wherever you are at in your feeding, is trying to implement some form of raw, whether it be as a topper or as a treat, or it's just a little sprinkle on whatever you're feeding. Start there, because it only benefits our Canis lupus familiaris. It all adds up to benefit their bodies, because their bodies naturally know what to do, and how to process the food. So it's just, it matters in the scheme of health for your dog and cat, and it matters in their overall well-being too, and just to make sure that they're getting some form of what they're naturally meant to eat. Right. So that would obviously be another one too. So, so those are a couple there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. And like I said, it's just one thing. So, and even I always like to say, if people are, when you're making your salads, and we do this every night, I mean, our little Potter guy, he just has his place. He knows when I'm chopping in the kitchen, he'll come running. He knows when I'm chopping something in the kitchen, he'll go right to the left of me, and he'll just wait there. And he's he can't see a thing. Right. He knows exactly where he is. And he knows that he's going to get, tonight he got radishes and cucumbers, a little bit, and so he got some tomato, he got some zucchini, and he'll eat a little bit of, he loves spinach, like raw, he'll eat all of those. So he got all that little bit of stuff. Plus he got his regular raw.
Right.
But that's the way that he can get some fresh things. And in each one of those vegetables was moisture.
Right.
And so that's going to benefit him even more. And then I could give him a little bit. And so it's our little thing we do, but it's pretty fun. I mean, I've yet to meet a vegetable he doesn't like.
That's awesome.
Which is crazy, but he just, ever since he was little. So that's a fun thing to do. And that's all we want to do. We just want everyone to just give a little bit of something fresh.
Right.
It doesn't matter what your base is. You look at your base food, read your ingredient panels, know what your pet is eating, make changes where you think you need to. We can help you with that, but just add something fresh, add moisture in.
Get something, and baby steps. Yep.
Done. And see if that doesn't make a difference. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for taking the time out to talk with us tonight, and all of our people. This is going to be up on our YouTube channel. Excellent. We have a whole playlist for Destination Fresh Food. In addition, Michael is also on there from a previous episode. From a couple of years ago now.
I know.
We got a ton of views on that. I still get comments almost every week on that one. So check that out. That's in our In the Kitchen with Four Mighty Paws series. Yes. We're literally pre-pandemic. We could actually, I'd love all these people to be in our kitchen with me. But
I would too. It's a beautiful kitchen.
Yeah, this is a beautiful way to do it. But anyway, so check those out. And check out our Destination Fresh Foods. We've got that promotion running, but every day basically is Destination Fresh Foods at our shop, both our shops. And we just appreciate all your partnership, Michael, and your knowledge and everything that Stella Chewy has done to help our pets thrive. And what it's all about. So thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you the next time. So take care.
Yes. Bye-bye.